"We won't stop you," one guard allegedly says. "The Apache Reservation might." Whether that exact line was spoken or not, the warning fits what happens next. On December 23, 1944, 25 German U-boat prisoners crawl through a tunnel under an Arizona prison camp and step into the dark, believing freedom is finally close. They think the real battle is getting past American guards. It isn't. Outside Phoenix, the air turns cold, the desert turns cruel, and every mile south hides a new humiliation. Some men expect a river to carry them to Mexico. Instead, they walk into one of the strangest failures of World War II. And the worst part comes after the escape works. Camp Papago Park sits near Phoenix, Arizona, under red buttes and winter sky. At its peak, it holds about 3,100 German prisoners and 371 American guards. Most of the prisoners are naval men. Many come from U-boats. The United States chooses Arizona for a simple reason. Heating oil is scarce, and the Geneva rules require warm barracks, not cool ones. So the desert becomes a bargain prison, and by wartime standards, Papago looks comfortable. The men eat decent meals. They watch Hollywood movies. They paint watercolors. They play sports. They even keep pets. One local later remembers German POWs cleaning canals and staring at women hanging laundry. It looks almost peaceful. But that calm hides something harder. Captain Jürgen Wattenberg rules the camp's German naval elite like a commander, not a prisoner. He is proud, strict, and deeply committed to Nazi discipline. When a prisoner named Werner Drexler boasts that he talked to the Americans, yet fellow Germans murder him inside the camp within hours, that killing tells everyone the same thing. These are not bored tourists in uniform. Some of them still believe the war can turn. So Wattenberg and other officers start planning. Friedrich Guggenberger joins in. So do Hans Werner Krauss and other naval prisoners with technical skill and patience. They pick a blind spot near the bathhouse in Compound 1A. They hide the shaft under a coal box. Then they dig for months. The tunnel stretches 178 feet. Men work in shifts. They flush dirt down toilets. They pack soil in their pockets and spread it across a new Faustball court. A visiting colonel stands over the hidden tunnel and says the ground is hard as a rock. The prisoners can barely keep straight faces. But that isn't the worst part. The tunnel is the easy part. One bad map is about to wreck everything. By late December, the escape plan looks brilliant. The prisoners make forged papers and fake stamps from scraps of leather and rubber. They earn American cash by selling handmade trinkets to the guards. They dry bread into emergency rations. 3 men even build a collapsible boat from scavenged lumber and stolen canvas. On paper, the route seems perfect. Reach the Gila River, float west, connect to the Colorado, slip into Mexico. Then everything changed. On the night of December 23, 1944, 2 days before Christmas, 25 Germans squeeze into the tunnel one by one. Rain has already touched the desert, and the air feels sharper than expected. One prisoner whispers, "Move. Move now." Another answers, "No talking." For a moment, the plan works exactly as intended. And here's what they didn't know. The camp will not even notice right away. Roll checks fail to catch the missing men at once. Captain Cecil Partial does not fully understand the scale of the breakout until around 7 o'clock. The FBI gets names and descriptions. Arizona newspapers explode. One headline calls it the greatest manhunt in state history. The escapers break into small teams. Some head south on foot. Others gamble everything on the homemade boat. That is where the dream begins to rot. The 3 boatmen march for 4 days carrying wood, canvas, food, and hope. They finally reach the Gila. According to the map, this should be their highway to freedom. Instead, they stare at mud, scattered pools, and a riverbed that barely acts like a river. It gets worse. Rain has shrunk the canvas. They cut the struts shorter. You'd load the boat and watch it sink into the muck. One man snaps, "This river is dead." Trained naval prisoners escape by boat and lose to a desert stream. Now the desert starts collecting its debt. Food runs low. Shoes wear out. Rain and cold nights beat men who expected hot sand and easy walking. Cactus spines punch through socks. The terrain that looks empty on a map turns full of fences, ranches, and people who notice strangers fast. What happened next feels almost comic, except the fear is real. One pair gets so hungry that they walk to a farmhouse and surrender. Outside, a little boy points a toy gun at them. The Germans salute him and say, "We are POWs and we surrender." The boy's mother later calls them charming guests while she waits for soldiers to arrive. Another prisoner steps on a cactus and can barely walk. Several others simply give up. But that still isn't the deepest humiliation. The most dangerous hunters are not the camp guards. Native scouts from southern Arizona, still widely called Papago at the time, and today known as the Tohono O'odham, know the country better than any map. Local officers know the roads. Ranchers know who belongs and who does not. One by one, the fugitives disappear back into custody. Some are found sleeping in washes. 3 men hang wet underwear on a mesquite tree near Gila Bend. Cowboys spot it and call them in. Then everything changed for the pair who come closest to success. Friedrich Guggenberger and Jürgen Quate Faslam push south and get within roughly 10 miles of the Mexican border. After days of marching, they finally stop to sleep. When they wake, native scouts are standing over them. One scout says, "Did you have a good sleep?" Quate Faslam stares back in shock. It is the same scout who had captured him months earlier in Mexico. At that moment, the escape stops looking heroic. It starts looking cursed. By early January 1945, almost everyone is back behind wire. The Great Breakout is collapsing faster than anyone outside Arizona can believe. The tunnels, the forged papers, the hidden dirt, the careful timing, the boat, the border march, none of it matters now. The desert has stripped the whole plan down to blisters and bad guesses. Only one name still haunts the search: Jürgen Wattenberg. Wattenberg does what the others cannot. He stays loose for weeks. According to accounts, he hides near what is now Piestewa Peak, sheltering in rough ground and relying on food left for him by German POWs on outside work details. He eats little. He watches patrols. He waits for a better opening that never comes. Every day the circle tightens. Every day the city grows closer and less reachable at the same time. Pause. He has led men across oceans in war, but now he is trapped by Phoenix. By January 27th, he is out of food. He shaves. He puts on a clean shirt. Then he walks into downtown Phoenix in daylight, like a man trying to reclaim his rank by posture alone. What he wants is simple: warmth, a meal, maybe one last illusion of control. According to later accounts, he gets soup and a beer in a cafe, then drifts through the Adams Hotel lobby and falls asleep. Another version has a street cleaner spotting him first. Either way, the ending lands with the same force. The mastermind of the largest Axis prison escape on American soil does not go down in a shootout. He goes down exhausted, alone, and surrounded by ordinary city life. A policeman closes in. Wattenberg has no real move left. He can run and collapse or stand and end it. He chooses the second option. "It is finished," he says. Just like that, the final fugitive is gone. What they discovered was brutal and simple. The fence was never the hardest part. Arizona was. By January 28, 1945, every one of the 25 escapees is back in custody. Not one dies in the breakout. Not one fires a heroic last shot. The largest Axis POW escape in American history ends without bloodshed and without a single lasting success. That irony sticks. The immediate fallout is embarrassment, then grudging respect. Guards search the tunnel and realize how much labor, patience, and nerve it took to build. Captain Partial later admits the Germans are smart as hell. He is angry, but he is not blind. These prisoners did something bold. They just picked the wrong state, the wrong season, and the wrong assumptions. And that is the real lesson inside the chaos. The Germans expect prison walls to be the problem. Instead, geography beats them. Winter nights in the Phoenix area can drop into the 40s. Rain turns a desert march miserable. Blue lines on a map lie. Canals confuse strangers. The Mexican border is farther than it looks. The land is not empty. It is watched, worked, fenced, and remembered by people who know it intimately. It also matters who joins the hunt. Local civilians report suspicious men. Ranch families notice footprints and accents. Cowboys notice laundry where it should not be. Native trackers notice everything. The escapees move through Arizona thinking open space means invisibility. It does not. It means exposure. But that wasn't the worst part for the prisoners' pride. Many of them are relieved to get back. Papago Park has food, beds, routine, and safety. Freedom in the desert turns out to be colder, hungrier, and far more lonely than captivity in camp. One man reaches the edge of Mexico in his imagination and ends up back in an American barracks eating dinner on schedule. That reversal makes the whole episode unforgettable. It is not just a failed escape. It is a complete collapse of confidence. The story matters because it shows a side of World War II most people never picture. More than 400,000 POWs, most of them German, live in camps across the United States during the war. America feeds them, houses them, and often works hard to meet Geneva standards, partly because American leaders want U.S. prisoners treated the same way overseas. Papago Park is one piece of that larger system. It also reveals how war stories shrink when you ignore local knowledge. These German sailors know submarines, engines, charts, and discipline. But Arizona is not the Atlantic. A desert river is not a river in Europe, and a landscape that looks blank to outsiders is full of human skill. The scouts who track the fugitives are not props in someone else's story. They are the reason the story ends when it does. Years later, the bitterness cools in a strange way. Former guards, civilians, and ex-prisoners reconnect in reunions called the Camp Papago Trackers. Wattenberg himself eventually reflects on that odd bond with one sharp line. Strange we have to kill each other before we become friends. It is not sentimental. It is just honest. That may be the deepest irony of all. The men who could not cross Arizona later cross memory together. So when people remember the Great Papago Escape, they should remember more than the tunnel. They should remember the mud-choked river, the boy with the toy gun, the scout asking, "Did you have a good sleep?" and the commander who made it all the way to a Phoenix hotel lobby only to lose there. That is history at its sharpest. Human pride meets a place it does not understand. If this story surprised you, drop a comment with the moment that sounds too wild to be real. And if you want more high-stakes stories where one decision changes everything, subscribe and stay with me for the next one. Sometimes the cleanest escape route on a map is the fastest road back to prison.